So we will define this concept called lunar day. So moon is going around the earth, and earth is rotating around its own axis, right? So as the moon is rotating, earth continues to rotate. So when will the moon come back to the same point? That's going to define the lunar day. And it turns out that the time between two successive overhead moons at any point on earth is actually 24 hours and 50 minutes, 50 minutes. Solar day, as we know, is the time of rotation around its own axis. It's 24 hours. Okay, so this gives us high tides at every 12 hours and 25 minutes, because that's when the moon comes overhead and the residual tide generating force is going to be maximum. So here is the little animation showing the earth rotating around its own axis and the moon going around the earth. And you can see this pole that is given as a reference. By the time moon makes one rotation, earth has gone around as well. So you can see here this little animation of tide, high tide, you get low tide, and then you come back to high tide. So every 12 hours and 25 minutes apart, you're going to have high tide and low tide. Again, this is in an idealized situation. We'll see that there are some 400 parameters that determine what the tidal character is going to be at a coast near you. 400 different parameters. So the tide is not going to be so well defined everywhere, but there are many places where there are 2 high tides and 2 low tides per day. So here it is showing in a schematic. Here is the moon. Here is somebody standing, let's say Gulab. You know why? Because somebody told me this joke: if my friend Gulab bothers me and I want to tell him to take a hike to the moon, you know how I tell him? I say, Gulab, Jamoon. Ah! Joke. Okay, so moon is going to start rotating around the sun and earth is rotating. After 6 hours, the moon is over there and the guy Gulab has already reached here. 6 hours later, Gulab is down here. We are now looking from the top at, it's from the southern pole, obviously, because this is Antarctica here, I think, or maybe not. Maybe it's Greenland, so we are looking at the North Pole. Nonetheless, 18 hours later, Gulab is over here, and 24 hours later, when Gulab is here, the moon has moved over. So for Gulab to catch up to the moon, it's going to take another 50 minutes. So the lunar day is the time that you have moon overhead. So between the two overhead moons, it's going to be 24 hours and 50 days, right? Noon to noon is sun overhead, that's 24 hours, whereas overhead moon is going to be 24 hours and 50 minutes. That's our lunar day, okay? That's all you have to remember. Solar day, lunar day. And we will see how this affects the tides, but we already said in an idealized situation we're going to get 2 high tides and 2 low tides apart by 12 hours and 25 minutes. And that is a very simple story to remember. And you want to repeat the bad joke, go ahead. I don't know where it comes from, but you can say you heard it from me.